It is Friday afternoon, and it is another edition of the wildly popular Facebook Live Friday. Brian Milam, Dave Baker with you as we put a bow on the high school football and most of the college football season, and now kind of dive in headfirst into college basketball and high school basketball full time. But let's wrap up some football news. And one note that just came through a few minutes ago: former Wildcat John Sumrall, who has been the coach at Troy in 2 years, went 23-4, 2 Sun Belt championships, is now the new head coach at Tulane University, the Green Wave, bringing Sumrall over to New Orleans in that area. And I think about the rumors that hit as soon as the Louisville game was over with Mark Stoops leaving to Texas A&M. No, he's not leaving. Well, who do you get if Stoops did leave and John Sumrall was the first name on everybody's lips?
It was the first name on everybody's list. And John's a great guy. We're friends, and he's a great coach. I'm not sure that you go from Troy to UK. Who knows? That's why this move makes sense. Makes sense financially, makes sense from a recruiting standpoint. And being down there in Alabama, I'm sure he's done some recruiting in Louisiana, and those recruiting fields are so fertile down there. I think he'll do a great job. I think he's one of the real up-and-comers in the coaching profession.
You bring up a point that it just dawned on me when you said, I don't know if you go to Troy to UK. And I go back to Hal Mumme, went from Valdosta to UK, and we saw how that played out in the end. And I think sometimes there are, and I use this term, this phrase a lot,
right?
But scars of your past can sometimes show up in your present.
Sure.
In the fact that, well, do we do that? You know, NFL coaches, college football coaches who go to the NFL don't normally do well. Well, small college coaches who make the big jump without that intermediate jump normally don't do well.
Right. I would say to you, though, that from a philosophical standpoint, the way they go about their business, John Sumrall and Al Mumme are two completely different
certainly.
people.
But I think it's just that Steve Spurrier didn't make it in the NFL. Nick Saban didn't make it in the NFL.
No question.
You know, but at the other level, they're right on the money. And I think sometimes people can say, I don't know about that. You know, there are exceptions to every rule, but golly, it took a long time for certain people to be quarterbacks, for certain people to be head coaches, for certain people to elevate themselves in any hierarchy. So, but that news just came along a few minutes ago.
Good for him.
John Sumrall is now a Green Wave. There you go.
Green Wave.
Green, yeah. There's going to be a
little more green than
nice
he made
job.
it, Troy. Thank you.
May have to use that on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Green Wave. But college football, UK is going to play in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl against Clemson, whom they have faced a couple of times over the last 30 years in bowl games. And your thoughts about the Cats getting the jump? A lot of people thought it's Charlotte. It's that Duke's Mayo Bowl. But when Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship, things moved around, and so Kentucky's in Jacksonville.
Yeah, everybody moved up one slot. Jacksonville's great. The city's great. I mean, if you're looking for a beach, you're not going to find one down there. You're going to find the St. John River, right, and up there in North Florida. But I think the last time that Kentucky played Clemson, if I'm right, was down the Music City Bowl, and Tommy Bowden was the Clemson coach before Dabo came in. I think it'd be a really good matchup. I think everything, everybody runs those pools where you pick all the bowl games and everything. I mean, the thing about it is, by the time you have to start picking those things, you don't know who's going in the transfer portal, who's staying, and it's just, I've always said that if you're trying to predict bowl games,
I'm a big fan of trying to predict bowl games. Just kidding.
I think it always comes down to the team that either wants it or needs it the most. Because let's just face it. I mean, let's say I know Kirby Smart's going to do his best job to have Georgia ready. But after winning 2 straight national championships, I don't want to be at, what is it, the Orange or whatever they're playing in?
Whatever.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, so it's natural, to have a letdown there. I mean, Florida State's got a lot to prove, right? But they still feel like they should have been in the college football playoff. So I think that's the thing. I mean, which one of these rosters and teams is more pumped about being in Jacksonville? Is it Clemson or is it Kentucky?
Or is my man from Floyd County, And I'm a huge fan of Floyd County. Jim Frazier. He's down in Jacksonville.
In the Mountain Classic.
As they call me, Jacksonville Jimmy. If you need to learn the parlay game, my man Jacksonville Jimmy is the guy you need to find.
He's got some other game, too.
Jim Frazier's the greatest human being of all time. Oh,
good town, good people.
Let's take a look. Inside jokes, there's a lot of them.
Thank you.
But college basketball, you mentioned a letdown a second ago because Florida State can be so jacked up, ready to go, or they can completely melt down.
Mm-hmm.
The Florida State not going to one of the bowl games is like a bad relationship ending where Florida State is, you mean we didn't go? Are you kidding me? Well, we'll show you.
Remind me to show you TikTok when we're done.
This can't be good.
Yeah, it is. It really it speaks right to what you said.
But, I mean, they can either go in there and demolish Georgia, which won't happen, or they will lay the biggest egg and make themselves look worse than what they are. Or what the situation is.
And let's be honest. And, I mean, I think this is what the committee was looking at. They don't have to lay an egg to get beat. I mean, they're now on their number 3 quarterback.
Oh, I'm talking about lay an egg to where they lose the way like TCU.
Right. I get it. But again, still they're on their number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, they are. And who only got 13 on a Louisville defense that has been somewhat porous at times this year. But as to college basketball and having a letdown, boy, we saw a letdown last week, didn't we? Kentucky. What the heck was that?
I don't know whether it was a letdown. I just, you know this. Your dad was a coach. You've covered a bunch of them for years. When things are going well, coaches don't want anything to change. And obviously, you've got to get Aaron Bradshaw back in.
Right.
But every time something changes, it's kind of the domino effect. So you had DJ Wagner, who was out with the turned ankle. That affected the rotations. Then you got Bradshaw back in there.
Not Terry.
And because of the kind of team this is, they wanted to get him involved in the offense. So maybe they deferred a little too much. Then all of a sudden, UNC Wilmington hangs around a little while, and there you go. That is a bad loss on Selection Sunday. People can try to sugarcoat it all they want. That's the kind of loss that hurts you and hurts you badly on Selection Sunday.
You know, I have said to people before, when you deal with March Madness, and people will say, good wins, bad losses. Mm-hmm. March Madness is almost like a credit report. You can pay the bill on time, but when you don't, you drop in a hurry.
I've never thought about it like that. That's good, B.
Well, I've thought that,
that's good.
What if you run through the conference, you go 13-3 in the conference or 12-4 in your conference, and they'll say, yeah, but they lost to Wilmington, and they really didn't play well against, take your pick, University. And I've always thought, shouldn't the wins
count more than the losses count against you?
Because most everyone in college basketball has a hiccup. But
here's the thing. I mean, the thing you're describing is kind of exactly what happened to Florida State in football.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't get better than perfect. Last time I checked, it is tough to improve on perfection.
Your first investor is out. Your second investor is out. Why should we invest in your company now?
Yeah, well, we're perfect. Are you? Well, apparently not. But I will be glad when next year when this college football bracket opens up and you don't have as much complaining because
you'll still have complaining.
Well, you'll have somebody. You're going to say, hey, we're number 13. Yeah, well, 13 usually doesn't beat 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
However, though, we have had wild card teams in the NFL win the Super Bowl.
Well, sure. I think that's a little bit of a different.
It is, but some will make that point.
Oh, yeah.
That, because the wild card team is what? 5th, 6th, 7th team, 8th team in the tournament or something like that?
And then some people can say, well, you've seen VCU go to the Final Four. You've seen George Mason.
Yeah.
You've seen St. Peter's go to a region final. Who did they beat in the first game?
Right.
This kid. But Kentucky now gets back into play. They go on the road to Philadelphia. They play the Penn Quakers. The Penn. Penn. Penn.
Lost in the semis of the Ivy tournament last year, I do believe.
They're smart.
From my research.
They're smart guys.
But they play in a smart conference.
I wish they had played at the Palestra.
Where are they playing this game tomorrow?
Wells Fargo. They're playing where the
Sixers play.
Yeah. Which
their home court is the Palestra, the home of the Big Five.
Oh, that is a buck. If you ever go to Philadelphia, it's on my bucket list. Go to the Palestra. It is one of the most. It's like the Madison Square Garden of Philadelphia and a much smaller venue.
I think in this order, it's got to be Independence Hall. It's got to be the Rocky statue, and then the Palestra.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. But Cats, they go up there to play tomorrow, and then we start getting into the finals.
Yes.
See, it's
one game
a week, and that's going to take a little while to get through.
So you get Penn this Saturday. You've got North Carolina next Saturday down in Atlanta.
And
then
correct.
the 21st, you've got Louisville in Louisville.
Yeah, then you've got Illinois State coming
up. On the 29th.
Yeah, coming up at the end of the month.
Which would be the same day as the football bowl game.
What he said. 7 hours after kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
That kickoff is at noon for the college football game, for the bowl game, and then UK plays Illinois State 7:30.
I just want to know, do you think who was the caller on the Dabo show?
Oh, that guy's great.
You think we could get him for the pregame show? I'm sure people know where this guy is. I mean, that would be something for us to try to do. What was the kid's name?
Oh, I forget.
Come on, Ben Beddoes. You know what his name was. Come on, the caller that went after Dabo Swinney. Google it for us there, can you? It was like Sean or...
That guy was mentioned on the Zoom call yesterday.
Oh, I bet he was.
And Dabo, the guy said, Dabo, Coach Swinney, this is great. And that caller, you had that meltdown on the radio. You see Dabo. Right. Yeah. It's one of those things. He's biting the lip a little bit.
Oh, there's no question.
You're not gonna. It's like Mike Gundy. I'm 40. I'm a man.
But we've seen Mark Stoops like that before. Well, sure. They're trying to walk that fine line between what they ought to say and what they want to say.
And there's a guy, and I enjoy Mark Stoops' honesty. I have for a decade. If he ever unleashed, this would be great.
But I
wish coaches would.
He could unleash to the unleashment of all time, and it wouldn't be anything like Mike.
No.
So Mike and Zach Yenser both got contract extensions this year.
Correct.
This week, Mike is the linebackers coach, and Zach Yenser the offensive line. So Bailey's back over there. So Dr. Weather, what's the kid's name that called Dabo Swinney's radio show?
Oh, that's
Can you Google it for us?
Yeah, I'll check.
I know you can find it. Beddoes walks around. He's got no phone. He's got no GPS.
But he's got the NAM.
He's got the GFS in his pocket. He's got the Hokas on, or whatever those things are.
What?
Those shoes he's wearing. Are those Hokas?
Oh, no.
See, I correctly identified the shoes. They're Hokas. Okay, so we've reached the point in our program. Are you ready for a surprise? I've gotten to the point where I really like to
need something. I've had too much coffee today.
Okay, hang on. Let me get something.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that I have the camera all to myself for the next few seconds, I have no idea what's about to happen.
No, you're fine. I just haven't explained this to you yet. This is a great story. A great sports story. So, who's up there directing? Is it Joe up there directing today? Oh, hey, Joe. So I'm sorry, I didn't alert you about this either. So this is a new bourbon called Never Say Die, the old NSD. Here's the great story. Have you heard this?
No, but I'm listening.
Okay, so my buddy Pat Madden across the street at Hamburg Farm.
Wow, this is a shameless plug here.
No. Listen to this. So back in 1951, the horseman John Bell was leasing Hamburg Farm. And they had a foal on a cold winter's night. And Mr. Bell got back to the farm and they said, Mr. Bell, we don't think this foal's going to make it. So what does he do? He goes over and gets a shot of bourbon and forces it down the horse's throat. And the horse lives through the night and grows up to be a normal horse and everything. And because of that incident, they named the horse Never Say Die. Fast forward 3 years to 1954. It is the 175th edition in 1954 of the Epsom Derby.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's the Kentucky Derby for those in Europe. Yeah.
Never Say Die makes it to that race. They enter him at 33-1 odds. Now, there was a lady who fell in love with this story. I believe her name was Norma Best. I know her last name is Best, but I believe it's Norma. She went around to family, friends, hocked all her jewelry, bet everything on Never Say Die. And Never Say Die wins it it was either 33-1 or 22-1.
Holy cow.
So she gets all this money.
Wreck the economy.
Okay, and so she wants to open up this club. And so she opens this club in England. I forget the city. It's called the Casbah Club.
Casbah.
And the opening night at the Casbah, there was this band that was playing. They were getting like, dollars per week or something like that. It was John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and not Ringo, but who's the other
George
guy?
Harrison.
George Harrison. They hired Norma Best's son, Pete, to be their drummer. Pete Best was the first drummer for the Beatles, and then he was replaced by Ringo. And so this is the story of Never Say Die. So Pat Madden spent part of his college over in England. And so this bourbon is distilled here in the country, then it's shipped across over to England.
What a story.
And it finishes in England. And it's really kind of taken off. And it's all based on this story of this foal that was born right across the street at Hamburg Farm.
Wow, love me do. This
right?
is great.
So you can get this at Liquor Barn. I think you get it at Total Wine, and you can get it at Ernie's Spirits at the corner of Harrodsburg and Lane Allen Road. They've probably got more.
I know where that is.
Yes, absolutely.
Ernie's, right on the side of the wall.
That's right. Right, not a couple of doors down from Scheller's Fitness.
And for those of you watching, you can have some right now.
We darn sure could.
Oh. That's fantastic.
But I mean, isn't that an amazing story?
Holy cow, this would replace my coffee.
And the interesting thing about it was this stuff has just come out, and it won like an international best whiskey contest, best bourbon contest. I mean, it's a great story in and of itself, but there's a big article in Forbes magazine. You can go to neversaydieBourbon.com. I think it's just a cool story.
Just remember, kids, bourbon can be whiskey. Whiskey can never be bourbon. Just remember that.
That's right. It's all about the mix, right? You've got to have
the aging.
X percentage of corn in it.
That's correct.
For it to be bourbon.
That is correct. So, that is the story for the day. As Paul Harvey would say, and now you know the rest of the story. Now, for those of you watching, and I'm going to ask him a question, do you know who the fifth Beatle was? The unofficial fifth Beatle was not Pete Best.
Pete was the original drummer.
But he was this guy was the only person ever to be on the marquee with the Beatles.
Colonel Tom Parker?
No. And we're going to get out of here and let you think about that question.
Roy
I know
Orbison?
the answer. No. And great pianist, one of the great, my man Joe is in there.
Come on, Joe.
Billy Preston.
Raider Joe got Billy Preston. Raider Joe.
Yeah, well, see, Raider Joe is a true commitment to excellence.
What did he
Preston,
sing?
My guy right there.
I Can Help, is that what he's saying? Willie Go Round.
See, we've got the earpiece. You can't hear him.
I think Joe.
See, Joe.
I think Joe has the 8 tracks of Billy Preston.
He may be the sixth Beatle for all we know.
He may have the 8 tracks of all this stuff.
Billy Preston, great call, Joe. All right, with that story now ended, we do never say die. But we're going to have to get out of here and
we keep writing new stories every hour to bring you the constant variety of sport.
Oh, I love Jim McKay. That will do it for this oddly wild and unpredictable edition of Facebook Live Friday. We will see you next time right here. Thanks for watching.